Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so this story takes place over 10 years ago. I'm from Saskatchewan, Canada. And if you know our winter Tims, then you will understand why I was so excited to go to Texas to visit my dad and stepmom over the holidays. However, let me just say that their winter weather is like my spring weather, so I was in shorts and tank tops basically the entire time. Now that I have given a little bit of information, let me introduce you to the players of the story. You have me, a 16-year-old female, who is a stereotype Canadian polite until you push me too far. You have the entitled mom who is truly the definition of a Karen. You have an entitled dad who believes women need to do what he says and serve him. And you have their son who looked to be around 6. So let me set the stage. Target, week after Christmas, and me in a pair of shorts that were not that short and were bought for me by my mom, who is a traditional teacher and who made sure I was always appropriately dressed, and a tank top that showed a little skin. Again, my mom had bought it for me. I was out shopping with my stepmom and was looking at clothes as she needed to get some groceries. As I was looking around, I was listening to some music, Bose, headphones in, when all of a sudden my headphones were ripped out of my ears and this lady started yelling at me. This is the conversation, most of which I remember as it was just that crazy. "Where are your parents?" the entitled mother asks. "I'm sorry, what? Is something wrong?" "I said, where are your parents? Or are you too stupid?" "Listen, lady, I don't know what your issue is, but please leave me alone." "No, where are your parents?" "Why are you wanting to know?" "Because you're too young to be by yourself and are dressed like that. I will call the police." What? Listen, lady, I'm old enough to be looking at clothes by myself, and also, I am not dressed badly." "Yes, you are. Only bad girls dress like you in this kind of weather. Or did your parents never teach you to respect your body?" "Okay, lady, listen, I am not from here. I'm only visiting during the holidays." "No, you're not. I know you're from here. You just like dressing inappropriately. You need to learn to dress appropriately for the weather." At this point, I see a large man over 6 feet tall walk over. He was dragging his son, and I should mention, at the time my height was about 4'7", very short for my age. However, anyone looking at me could clearly see that I am not a child, that I was at least a teen. "What's going on here?" the entitled dad says. The entitled mother answers, "I was just telling this little girl that she needs to put on some proper clothes." "And I was just telling you that I am not from here. I live in Saskatchewan." "That place doesn't exist. Stop lying. My wife is right. It's people who dress like you that make us homeschool our child. We don't want them to be corrupted." "Actually, it does exist. It's in Canada." "Shut up, witch. No one asked you." Me looking at the dad. "So you say that people like me is why you homeschool your son? Maybe if you did send your kid to school, he would learn where Canada is." And now the entitled mother starts screaming louder. "You are from here, and like dressing like that." She then started saying cheap stuff about me and even about my mom, so now I was mad. My mom was a single parent as my dad was never really in my life. "Say what you want about me, but my mom, I will end you." I walked towards the front where I know employees will be. The entitled mother and dad followed while still dragging their son. Okay, now listen to my voice very clearly. I am not from Texas. I'm from Saskatchewan, Canada. I don't have your southern accent. I am not a child, and I'm not dressed inappropriately. The entitled dad starts getting in my face, screaming that he will have me arrested for dressing like that. He's so close that I can feel the spit hitting my face. He then grabs me and tells me that I will be the prison witch from now on. This is where I act. I knee him hard. As he falls, I kick him straight in the face. He is now on the ground and I got a good shot in and was very proud. By this time, security and the police were called. As a police officer is talking to me, I ask if there is any way to call my stepmom up to the front so she's not looking for me. They do, and as I'm waiting for her to come up, I start explaining what happened. I show the officer my ID, which clearly not only says that I'm in fact from Saskatchewan, but that I was only 16, which makes me a minor. Oh boy, is the entitled dad in even more trouble now. My stepmom comes to the front and I explain what happened. She's fuming. The officer asks me if I want to press charges and I ask how that will work as a minor who lives in Canada, and he explains and I agree. But I do also tell the officer of my concerns for the kid, because if the parents react like that to someone in public, how do they treat them in private? He agrees to file the concerns as he agrees it is worrying. EMTs are called for the entitled dad as I may or may not have broken his nose. And for me, as I don't want to take any chances, I could already see bruises forming quickly. I was given the all clear. Grandma was called to pick up the boy. She seemed really nice and was very apologetic for her son and daughter-in-law. And as I was leaving with my stepmom, I saw the entitled dad and mom sitting in the back of 2 police cars. The aftermath, well, I don't have the full details, but for my case, the entitled mom was found guilty of harassment and the entitled dad was found guilty of harassment as well and assault on a minor. I don't know what happened to the kid, but I hope he got to live with someone awesome who didn't act the way his parents did. Edit. Okay, so let me make a couple of things clear. I have received a few messages about how a girl your size could have taken down a man who was much bigger than me. Well, it's called self-defense, which I had been taken for multiple years at that point, due to other situations which I won't put here but might share later on. Finally, for the people saying that I'm contradicting myself in my post about visiting my father, well, my mom raised me as a single parent. No, I'm not. My mom did raise both myself and my brother on her own. I was trying to reconnect with my dad. He split when I was a baby, once in a while reappearing. My mom wanted us to have a relationship with him as he is our dad. Brother worked retail so could not come that time due to store policy and Boxing Day. He still had rights to his kids as he got visitation. My mom was not going to fight with him on seeing us as she would not have been able to afford a lawyer, but my dad could have. My dad is a jerk for other things he did but was never physically abusive. You don't know the dynamics of my family or history. All you really should know is that my mom is the best and I'm protective of her for everything she went through. Dad is a jerk but unfortunately still my dad. I was 16, so did not have much choice in the matter, as again, I did not want to cause more issues for my mom. Hey everyone, I'm writing this post because I need some advice and perspective on a situation that's causing a lot of tension and stress in my life right now. I'm 28 female. I'm getting married to my amazing fiance, Casey, 29. And we've decided to ask our grandparents to be our best man and maid of honor. It's a bit unconventional, but it means a lot to us. Casey chose his grandpa as his best man because his grandpa played a crucial role in his life during a horrific tragedy that his family went through. In many ways, his grandpa is like a second father to him. For me, it was a no-brainer to ask my grandma to be my maid of honor. When I lost my mom, my grandma became my rock. She was the love and light in my life for a long time, and she's the one person I could always talk to about missing my mom. Now here is where the trouble starts. My half-sister, Twinnie, is one of the bridesmaids, along with my best friend. My half-sister isn't related to my grandma. She's my dad's child, not my mom's. They barely have a relationship beyond a few times they have seen each other before wedding. I admit that I am not very close to my half-sister, but I knew she wanted to be closer to me and that she would want to be a bridesmaid. So, I included her in the bridal party. The issue is that my half-sister absolutely hates the fact that my grandma is my maid of honor. She's been rude to my grandma for the past several weeks, making snide comments and insinuating that having a cold-hearted maid of honor must be tough. She even went as far as suggesting that my grandma should get some cosmetic work done so she doesn't look like an old hag in our wedding photos. I tried to talk to her and told her to stop multiple times, but she just brushed it off. I finally confronted her after the second incident and warned her that she needed to stop being rude to my grandma. I made it clear that if she continued, she might be removed from the wedding party. Despite my warning, she continued with her comments, and my grandma even told me that my half-sister had been saying negative things behind my back. So I had to sit down with her and give her an ultimatum. She had two choices: either knock it off, apologize to my grandma and keep her comments to herself, or step down as a bridesmaid because my grandma was not going anywhere. This decision wasn't easy for me, but I felt like I had to stand up for my grandma. My half-sister's response shocked me. She said that I shouldn't be making her do this and that she should have been the maid of honor from the very start. She claimed that she shouldn't be expected to be fine with a woman who didn't want to embrace her as part of the family when she hadn't done anything wrong. She said it hurt her to see me so close to my grandma when my grandma had chosen not to be part of her life. Regardless of which side of the family my grandma was related to me by, she's my half-sister. My grandma should have embraced her as another grandchild. She also said that my ultimatum was unfair and cruel, especially since I was aware of the past and knew she wasn't comfortable around my grandma. Honestly, I was taken aback by my half-sister's feelings toward my grandma. I had no idea she felt this way. But even knowing this, it doesn't change my decision. Maybe that makes me the jerk in the situation, and I need to hear your thoughts. So Reddit, am I the jerk here? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, you're definitely not the jerk here. Grandma had no obligation to embrace your half-sister as another grandchild, and you have every right to exclude someone from your wedding party if they are behaving rudely. Another commenter adds, not that jerk. But you and your sister are way overdue for a heart-to-heart talk. When you were 13, 14, she was like 5 or 6. So her earliest memories coincide with the time you were becoming more independent and spending more time out of the house. It is natural for kids to want to hang out around their big sister or brother. It's also natural for teenagers to not want to be around younger kids. I think your sister felt rejected, since she was jealous of the time you spent with your grandmother instead of her. It became easy to just blame your grandmother. Now that you are both adults, it is possible for you to be closer than ever, but you really need to talk about this. A third commenter goes with, not that jerk. Your wedding, your choice. You chose to do something sweet and your half-sister is trying to make herself feel more important than your grandma because, well, she clearly has some issues. You two should try to talk it out honestly though, because she obviously has some emotional baggage. Names are changed. Many moons ago, I worked at a now defunct convenience store/gas station in the Midwest. I was initially a bit hesitant to take a job at a convenience store because it was just the sort of place that you always hear about getting robbed. However, it was new, brightly lit, clean, and on a very busy road. Also, I needed a second job pronto because university is so expensive and a girl's gotta eat. Ramen and peanut butter only goes so far. After I started working there, I quickly realized that my worries about being robbed were probably unfounded, as my store was somehow the meeting point of all of the police. The local city cops, the county sheriff, and even detectives all wandered into my store multiple times a day. They would stand around and chat with the staff or just stop in for a snack or drink on the way to work. This comes into play later. So while I didn't have to worry about robbers and I actually kind of enjoyed the job, there was one major annoyance. I got along well with all of the employees but one. His name was Branson. Branson was in his early 20s, fairly well-spoken and intelligent, but wouldn't you know it, he just knew everything. No matter what you were talking about, he knew more and better than you, even on matters involving your own history. You wouldn't think that was possible, but by God, he had an opinion about the cafeteria in the hospital my mother worked in when I was a child. Not a joke, he really did. While he wasn't the first know-it-all, I'll admit he had an even more annoying personality trait. Branson was a tattletale. You didn't stock the coolers before he got there? Well, tattle. Didn't clean the bathrooms before he came in? Tattle. Didn't make more coffee, tattle. No matter how minor or downright wrong he was, he just had to run and tell management. As such, they were just as annoyed by him as the lowly cashiers. Once, he almost got me fired by telling the managers that I allowed one of my friends to steal from the store. Luckily, we were absolutely lousy with cameras, so after a few minutes of desperate pleading for the manager to check the CCTV footage, they discovered that Branson was in fact full of it, if not lying for his amusement. When it was proved he was wrong, did he apologize? Of course not. He was never wrong in all of his lifelong days because he, of course, knew everything. I was, as they say, not remotely fond of Branson. One day the store was filled with law enforcement as per usual, 2 sheriffs, and 4 or 5 local city cops. It was a shift changeover and me and my co-worker were ready to hand off our shift to Branson. There were no other customers, so we were all standing around talking and just enjoying the banter. It just so happened that the sheriff supervisor was there. His name was Bucky. Bucky was a good old boy, salt of the earth, and one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. He'd give you the shirt off of his back if he thought you looked a bit chilly. Now, while I was chatting with some of the other boys in blue, Bucky was talking to Branson. I wasn't entirely listening to their conversation until it started to go a bit pear-shaped. Bucky was talking about something and Branson in his usual way just had to start arguing with him that he was wrong because, well, Branson just knew that it was X instead of Y. Then he took it a step further and suggested that, as a lawman, Bucky didn't have the schooling that Branson did, and it was only natural that Branson would know more about the subject. Bucky just smiled and rather than argue, he removed himself from the conversation and walked around the counter to the other side. He caught my eye and motioned me over. He then asked me what Branson's last name was, and not seeing any reason not to, I told him. He thanked me and drifted off into the store. I honestly didn't think anything more about it. I went back to my conversation with the others. After a few minutes, Bucky walked up with a vaguely puzzled look on his face and asked Branson, "Hey buddy, what was your name again?" Branson, sounding a little annoyed and as if he were schooling a child, answered him. Again, Bucky walked back off into the store. When Bucky returned, he had a big old grin on his face. He motioned for Branson to come to him from behind the counter and said, "Your name was Branson X, right?" Branson confirmed it was, and Bucky's grin widened further as he reached for the handcuffs on his belt. "I am so happy to hear that because there is a warrant out for your arrest, and I'm going to have to take you in. I'm going to need you to turn around for me and put your hands behind your back." At that, all of the conversation died entirely. I exchanged the well-earned shocked Pikachu face with my co-worker. The shocked expressions on our faces melted away into absolute delight as our most annoying co-worker was handcuffed and taken out of the store. I never did see Branson again, but Bucky was back later that evening and apologized to me for making me stay late. I told him I didn't mind, and it was all worth it for the show. I would have done it all over again just to see an idiot sabotage himself. Life tip: if you've got a warrant out for your arrest, probably best if you don't annoy a cop. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.